The dashboard went red at 3:47 a.m. Pacific time. Not just one alert. 17. Then 40. Then every monitoring system they had started screaming at once. Global traffic down 31%. Then 58%. Then 74%. By the time the CTO, Dominic Park, made it to the emergency war room at 4:20 a.m., they'd lost 94% of their traffic routing capacity. The engine that handled 2.3 billion requests per day across 13 global regions had simply stopped, not crashed. Stopped. What the hell is happening? Dominic was pulling up logs on 3 screens simultaneously, his reading glasses sliding down his nose. Garrett, their tech director, the one who'd restructured the entire engineering division 3 weeks prior, stood near the back wall, pale. Actually pale. The kind of pale that comes when something breaks and nobody knows why. "It's the traffic engine," someone from platform engineering said, voice shaking. "It's frozen like it's locked." Locked? Dominic spun around in his chair. Infrastructure doesn't lock, it fails or it runs. Systems don't just lock themselves. What do you mean locked? That's when Priya from legal rushed in, laptop open, face completely white, hair still wet from the fastest shower of her life. "Dominic." Her voice cracked slightly. "The synthwave license. What about it?" "It's been revoked. Reclaimed. There's a formal notice here dated last Monday, but it was sent to a deprecated email group and revoked." Dominic looked like someone had physically struck him across the face. "By who? We own that code. It's our proprietary infrastructure. It's the foundation of our entire platform architecture." Priya turned the laptop toward him, hands trembling. He read the name on the licensing notice. Then he looked at Garrett, really looked at him. "You axed her," Dominic said slowly, each word dropping like a stone. "You axed her entire team 3 weeks ago. You eliminated 5 of the most critical engineers in this building. And she reclaimed her code revenue license?" Garrett opened his mouth. Nothing came out except a small choking sound. "Did you even know she held the IP?" Dominic's voice was getting quieter, which was somehow worse than yelling. "Did you ask? Did you check? Did you do any actual research before you decided her salary lacked ROI?" The room had gone completely silent except for the alert sirens still blaring from every monitoring system. "My name is Lexi Hargrave, and this is exactly how we got here. Welcome to Payback Office. This is where we tell the stories about workplace justice that actually happened, the real ones, the messy ones, the ones where nobody screamed or threw staplers or posted angry rants on social media. Just patient, deliberate moves that let the consequences do all the talking. We're closing in on 7,000 subscribers who believe that the best revenge is watching someone collapse under the weight of their own decisions, completely unaided. If that sounds like the kind of story worth hearing, hit subscribe. You're going to want to see how this one ends, and how it begins. I'm not someone who needs the spotlight. Never have been, never will be. I'm the person who builds the thing that makes everything else work. The foundation, the engine, the infrastructure nobody thinks about until it stops running, the invisible architecture that everyone depends on and nobody notices. I've been writing code since I was 12 years old. Started with Python scripts to automate my math homework because I was lazy and hated repetitive calculations. Moved into systems architecture by the time I was 22 because I loved problems that scaled. I'm 31 now, and I've built traffic routing systems for 3 major platforms. The kind of systems that handle millions of requests per second without anyone ever noticing they exist. That's the thing about good infrastructure. When it's working perfectly, it's completely invisible. When it's not working, the entire world stops turning. I joined Arcline Technologies 6 years ago as a senior backend engineer. Small team, scrappy, hungry. The kind of place where if you could solve a problem, you owned it. No red tape. No approval committees, no endless meetings about meetings. Just build it, ship it, scale it, and move on to the next fire. And I loved that. I wasn't there to climb a corporate ladder or collect fancy titles. I was there to solve interesting problems with people who actually understood what we were building. Engineers who spoke my language. People who cared about uptime and latency and elegant solutions to complex scaling challenges. For 6 years, that's exactly what I did. I wrote code. I solved problems. I built systems that worked, and I was good at it. Really good. The traffic engine, internally we called it synthwave, named after my favorite genre of music, was my baby. I started building it 4 years ago when our original routing system started buckling under scale. We'd gone from 200 million requests a day to nearly a billion in just 18 months. Explosive growth. The kind every startup dreams about. The old system couldn't handle it anymore. We were seeing failures every weekend. Timeouts, bottlenecks, entire geographic regions going dark for minutes at a time because one node couldn't distribute load properly. Users were complaining. Customers were threatening to leave. The executive team was panicking. So I built Synthwave. It wasn't just a rewrite of the old system. It was a complete rethink of how traffic routing should work at scale. Adaptive load balancing that learned from patterns. Predictive scaling based on historical traffic data and machine learning models. Self-healing nodes that could reroute around failures without any human intervention whatsoever. The system could literally fix itself. It took me 11 months to build the core architecture. I worked nights, weekends, early mornings before anyone else got to the office. I wasn't asked to, nobody demanded it, I saw the problem clearly, and once you see a problem that clearly, you can't unsee it. It becomes this thing in your head that won't leave you alone until you solve it. When we deployed Synthwave into production, our uptime went from 96.4% to 99.97% within the first month. Our traffic handling capacity tripled without adding a single new server. We stopped having those weekend failures that had everyone's phones buzzing at 2 a.m. The system just worked beautifully, silently, invisibly. Dominic, the CTO, called it the single most valuable piece of infrastructure in the entire company. That was 3 years ago. Since then, Synthwave had scaled with us through every growth phase. We went from 1 billion requests a day to 2.3 billion. From 6 global regions to 13. From 100 million active users to over 400 million people depending on our platform to work seamlessly every single day. And it did, every single day. I led a team of 4 brilliant engineers who maintained it, optimized it, expanded it into new regions. Jordan, who understood distributed systems better than anyone I'd ever met. Asher, who could debug race conditions in his sleep. Dev, who wrote the most elegant monitoring code I'd ever seen. And Priya, different Priya from legal, who handled all our performance optimization. We weren't flashy. We didn't get the spotlight during all-hands meetings. We didn't launch exciting new features that got demoed on stage. But every single executive in that company knew the truth. If Synthwave went down, the entire platform went down. We were the foundation. And foundations don't get applause. They get taken for granted. Here's the thing nobody knew. Well, Dominic knew. And the legal team knew because they'd reviewed and signed off on it years ago when I first joined. But nobody else in the company knew. Garrett certainly didn't know. Synthwave wasn't owned by Arcline Technologies. Not fully. Not in the way everyone assumed. When I built it, I was still technically a contractor. I didn't transition to full-time employment until month 7 of the development process. By then, the core architecture, the real magic of how Synthwave actually worked, the algorithms that made it special, was already written, already tested, already mine. I own the intellectual property. When I went full-time, legal and I worked out an arrangement, a licensing agreement, clean and simple. I granted Arcline a revenue-based license to use Synthwave for their platform. They could use it, modify it, scale it, expand it, whatever they needed. In exchange, I received a small percentage of the revenue it generated. It wasn't a lot of money. Maybe 0.3% of platform revenue tied to Synthwave's uptime metrics and performance benchmarks. Some months it was $12,000. Some months it was $20,000. It varied. But it kept the intellectual property in my name. Why? Because I'd been burned before at a previous job. Badly burned. I'd built an entire fraud detection system that saved that company tens of millions of dollars in fraudulent transactions. They patented it under the company name without telling me. Then they laid me off 9 months later during a restructuring and licensed that exact system to 3 of their competitors. I got nothing. Not a penny. Not credit. Not even a thank you. Just a severance check and an NDA. So when I built Synthwave, I made absolutely sure that couldn't happen again. Dominic thought it was fair. Legal thought it was clean and mutually beneficial. The company got a world-class system that would scale with them for years. I got protection and a small revenue share. Everyone won. The license had a standard clause buried in Section 7.3. If my employment ended for any reason, I had the option to renegotiate terms or revoke the license with 30 days written notice. Standard stuff for contractor-turned-employee IP agreements. I never thought I'd actually use it. I never wanted to use it, but I'm glad it was there. Garrett Dyson joined Arcline 8 months ago as the new tech director. He came from a Fortune 500 consulting background. McKinsey, then Deloitte, then some VP role at a financial services company. MBA from Wharton. The kind of resume that looks impressive in a board presentation. He'd never written a line of production code in his life. That's not automatically a deal breaker. Not always. Some of the best tech leaders I've worked with weren't engineers by training. They understood people. They understood systems thinking. They asked smart questions and actually listened to the answers. Garrett wasn't one of those leaders. First meeting with him, 2 weeks after he started, he pulled up a spreadsheet on the conference room screen. "I've been doing a cost-benefit analysis of every engineering team," he said, clicking through tabs. "And I want to understand your team's ROI." I blinked. "ROI on infrastructure? Exactly. What revenue does your team directly generate?" "We don't generate revenue," I said carefully. "We enable it. Synthwave routes 2.3 billion requests a day. Every product feature, every user interaction, every payment transaction, every API call, everything goes through our system." "Right, but what's the incremental value?" He tapped his pen against the table. "If I reduced your team size by half, what's the actual measurable impact to the bottom line?" I felt it then. That little shift in the air when you realize someone's already made up their mind and they're just going through the motions of asking questions. This wasn't a theoretical exploration. He was already planning cuts. "If Synthwave goes down," I said slowly and clearly, "the entire platform goes down. No traffic routing means no product access. No product access means no revenue. No revenue means the company stops functioning. The impact would be total and immediate." He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "But it's not going to go down, right? Because it's stable now. You said yourself, 99.97% uptime. That's basically automated at this point. It runs itself. It's stable because we actively maintain it, we monitor it, we optimize it. We handle edge cases and scaling challenges and regional issues before they become critical problems." "I'm sure you do." He closed the laptop. "I'm just exploring opportunities to optimize our resource allocation. Lean out redundancies, reduce overhead, you understand." I understood perfectly. He saw headcount numbers and salary expenses. He didn't see the system. He didn't see the work. He didn't see the value. He saw a budget line he could cut to make himself look good. The meeting happened on a Thursday afternoon, 3 weeks after that first conversation with Garrett. He scheduled it as a restructuring alignment session on our calendars. Sent at 4 p.m. the day before, scheduled for 10 a.m. the next morning. My whole team was there. Me, Jordan, Asher, Dev, and Priya. Garrett walked in with someone from HR I'd never met before. That's when I knew for cert. HR only shows up for one reason. "I want to start by thanking you all for your contributions to Arcline," Garrett said. He had a script. I could see it in his hand. Printed pages, talking points highlighted in yellow. Arcline is entering a new phase of strategic growth, and that means making difficult decisions about resource allocation and operational efficiency. Jordan shot me a look across the table. I kept my face neutral. "After a thorough analysis of our engineering organization," Garrett continued, reading from his script, "we've determined that the infrastructure team's current headcount doesn't align with our operational efficiency goals moving forward." "You're cutting us," I said flatly. Garrett paused mid-sentence. "We're right-sizing the organization." "How many of us?" "The entire infrastructure team is being dissolved. Effective 2 weeks from today, you'll each receive severance packages in accordance with company policy." Actual silence. Dev actually laughed. A short, sharp sound of disbelief. "You're killing the entire infrastructure team?" "We're integrating infrastructure responsibilities into the platform engineering team," Garrett said smoothly, like he'd rehearsed this part. They'll absorb synthwave maintenance as part of their existing workload. It's a more efficient organizational model that eliminates redundancy. They don't know synthwave, I said. My voice stayed level. Calm. They've never touched the code base. They don't know the architecture. Then we'll train them. Documentation exists, correct? Documentation isn't the same as understanding a system. Garrett's smile tightened around the edges. Lexi, I respect your expertise. I do. But the reality is, synthwave is a mature, stable system. It's not an active feature development. It doesn't require a dedicated team of 5 people. Your salary alone could fund 2 junior engineers who could handle maintenance. My salary lacks ROI, I said quietly. That's exactly what you're saying, Garrett. He straightened his papers, clearly uncomfortable. This isn't personal, it's a business decision based on data and strategic priorities. I nodded slowly. Okay, I said. Jordan turned to stare at me. Okay, it's a business decision. I stood up calmly. I get it. The HR rep looked almost disappointed that I wasn't fighting or crying or demanding explanations. But here's the thing about me. I don't fight in rooms like that. I don't argue with people who have already made their decisions. I don't waste energy on performances that won't change anything. I just adapt to new information, and I act accordingly. I spent my last 2 weeks at Arcline writing documentation, not because I thought it would actually help the platform engineering team, but because I wanted a clear, time-stamped record of exactly what I'd told them, exactly what I'd warned them about, exactly what I'd handed over. I documented every system dependency, every failure mode, every edge case that synthwave handled automatically in the background, every regional quirk, every performance consideration, every scaling threshold. I wrote a 47-page transition guide and sent it to Garrett and the platform engineering lead, Kyle. I held a 4-hour knowledge transfer session where I walked through the architecture. Kyle looked overwhelmed. This is a lot more complex than I expected, he said quietly after the session. It's 4 years of work, I said. It's not going to make sense in 4 hours. How long do you think it'll take us to really understand it? Honestly, 6 months minimum, maybe longer. He looked worried. And if something breaks before then you'll learn fast. I also sent a separate email to legal. Subject, Synthwave License Employment Termination Notice Body. Per the licensing agreement, established April 2019, I am formally notifying Arcline Technologies of my intent to reassess the Synthwave revenue license following the termination of my employment on date. As outlined in Section 7.3 of the agreement, I am providing 30 days written notice before any license modification or revocation takes effect. I am open to renegotiating terms that reflect the current value and strategic importance of the synthwave system to Arcline's operations. Please have the appropriate parties contact me to discuss next steps. Best regards, Lexi Hargrave. I sent it to the licensing team and copied Dominic directly. I didn't copy Garrett. Dominic called me 20 minutes later. His name lit up my phone while I was packing up my desk. Lexi, what is this email? It's a courtesy notice, I said calmly. I'm following the terms of the licensing agreement. You're revoking the license? I'm reassessing it. The company is terminating my employment. That fundamentally changes the terms of our arrangement. I'm willing to negotiate a new agreement that works for both parties. What kind of arrangement are you looking for? I don't know yet. I'll need to evaluate what my options are and what the market rate is for this kind of licensing. Long silence on the line. Garrett doesn't know, does he? Dominic said quietly. Garrett doesn't know what? That you own Synthwave. That we're licensing it from you? He never asked. Dominic exhaled slowly. Lexi, don't do this. I'm not doing anything except following the legal agreement, the one legal approved, the one you signed off on. You know what I mean? Dominic, I built that system from scratch. I maintained it for 4 years. I made sure it never failed. And I'm being let go because some spreadsheet says my salary isn't efficient enough. My voice stayed calm. Flat, factual, so yeah, I'm reassessing the license terms. He didn't say anything for a long moment. I'll talk to Garrett, he finally said. You do that. He didn't talk to Garrett, or if he did, Garrett didn't listen, didn't care, didn't think it mattered. My last day came and went. I handed over my laptop and my access badge. I shook hands with the people I'd worked with for 6 years. I walked out of the building for the last time. And then I went home. And I waited. Monday morning, 3:47 a.m. Pacific Time. The Synthwave license officially expired at midnight. The system had a 72-hour grace period hard-coded into the license validation layer. But at exactly 3:47 a.m., when the grace period countdown hit 0, the license validation failed. The traffic engine didn't crash. It didn't throw errors. It just stopped accepting new requests. Every health check returned the same message. License invalid contact administrator. By 4 a.m., every monitoring alert in the entire company was firing simultaneously. By 4:15 a.m., the platform engineering team was in full panic mode, spinning up war rooms and pulling in everyone they could find. By 4:20 a.m., Dominic was in the emergency war room, still in sweatpants and a Stanford hoodie, pulling up logs on every screen he could access. And by 4:35 a.m., someone finally found and actually read the email I'd sent to legal 3 weeks prior. The one that had been routed to a deprecated distribution list that Garrett had dissolved during his restructuring. "It's locked," someone from platform engineering was saying, voice high with stress. "The whole engine is locked. I've never seen anything like this. It's not a failure mode. It's just locked." Dominic was scrolling through logs, his face illuminated by 3 monitors showing nothing but red alerts. "It's not a bug," he said quietly. "It's the license validation." Garrett was standing near the back of the room, arms crossed, looking annoyed rather than concerned. "What license?" Dominic didn't turn around. "Synthwave, the traffic engine. Lexi holds the IP. We license it from her." "That's not possible. It's our proprietary infrastructure. She built it as an independent contractor. We licensed it from her, and she revoked the license." Garrett's face went completely blank. "Revoked? Last Monday. There's a notice here, sent to legal. Why the hell wasn't I informed?" Priya from legal, who just arrived, was shaking. "It went to an old distribution email. The licensing group you dissolved during the restructuring. Nobody saw it until now." Dominic finally turned around in his chair. His expression was the kind of calm that comes right before an explosion. "You axed her," Dominic said slowly, each word carefully enunciated. "You axed her entire team 3 weeks ago. You told her she lacked ROI. And she reclaimed her code revenue license. I didn't. Nobody told me there was a, because you didn't ask, Garrett." Dominic's voice was ice, pure ice. "You ran a cost-benefit analysis on her salary. Did you run one on the system she built? The system that handles 100% of our global traffic. We have backups, redundancies, failover systems. We can. There is no backup for Synthwave." Dominic cut him off. "Synthwave is the system. Everything runs through it, every request, every transaction, every user interaction, and right now it's not running." Garrett opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. One of the platform engineers spoke up tentatively. "Can we, I don't know, override it somehow? Patch out the license check?" "It's license locked at the kernel level," Dominic said, "integrated into the core architecture. We'd have to rebuild the entire traffic routing infrastructure from scratch. How long would that take? 6 months if we're lucky, maybe a year." Dominic rubbed his face with both hands. "And that's if we even could rebuild it. Lexi designed this thing. The adaptive algorithms are proprietary. Nobody else understands how they actually work." "We have the documentation," Garrett said. "We have the full code base in our repositories." "Having the code and understanding the code are not the same thing, Garrett." Dominic was pulling up Slack logs now, scrolling frantically. "Platform engineering hasn't touched Synthwave. They don't know it. Kyle said as much in the transition notes. And Lexi's entire team is gone. You let all of them go." The room went very, very quiet. Someone's phone rang, shrill in the silence, then another phone, and another. VPS waking up to alerts. The board getting automated notifications. Revenue metrics tanking in real time across every dashboard. Garrett's phone rang. He looked at the screen. "CEO," he stared at it, he didn't answer. "Call her," Dominic said. Garrett stared at him. "What?" "Call Lexi, right now, apologize, beg if you have to. And ask her what it's going to take to turn this back on. We can't just capitulate to Garrett." Dominic's voice dropped to barely above a whisper, which was somehow more terrifying than shouting. "We are losing approximately $340,000 per hour right now." Our SLA guarantees are voided after 6 hours of downtime. If we don't fix this by end of business today, we're looking at tens of millions in customer penalties and a stock price collapse when the market opens. So yes, we can just... Garrett swallowed visibly. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands. My phone rang at 5:18 a.m. I was already awake. Coffee in hand, laptop open on my kitchen table. I'd been monitoring Arcline's public status page since midnight, watching and waiting. Major outage, investigating. I let it ring 3 times, then I answered. This is Lexi. Lexi. Garrett's voice was tight and strained. It's Garrett Dyson, from Arcline. I remember who you are, Garrett. Long pause. We're experiencing a system issue. The traffic engine is offline. I saw that. Your status page says you're investigating. We know what the issue is. He was choosing each word very carefully. It's the synthwave license. Oh, I said, taking a sip of coffee. Did legal not forward you my email? Silence. I sent a formal notice 3 weeks ago. I'm reassessing the licensing terms. Lexi. His voice cracked slightly. The entire platform is down. Everything is down. I know. We need synthwave back online immediately. I'm sure you do. Another pause. I could hear voices in the background, the war room. What's it going to take? I took another sip of coffee and let the silence stretch. I'd like to discuss a consulting agreement, I said finally, since I'm no longer an employee. Fine, whatever you want. Just turn it back on. I'll need a few things in writing first. Lexi, we don't have time to. I'm happy to help, Garrett, but I want to make sure we have clear terms this time. So nobody's confused about value or ROI or efficiency. I could hear him breathing hard. What do you want? A 6-month consulting contract, $1.2 million, paid in full upfront. He actually choked. That's insane. $200,000 per month, roughly equivalent to what you said my salary lacked in ROI. I kept my voice light. Pleasant, even. I'll also need full reinstatement offers for my entire team. Jordan, Asher, Dev, and Priya. Same titles, same salaries, plus bonuses for the disruption and inconvenience. I can't authorize that kind of, then find someone who can. You have 6 hours before your SLA penalties kick in. I did the math earlier. You're burning about $340,000 an hour right now in lost revenue alone. My rate is actually a bargain when you think about it. Dead silence on the line. I heard muffled voices. He'd put his hand over the phone, then Dominic's voice came through. Lexi, it's Dominic. Hey, Dominic. Are we really doing this? You tell me. I sent a good faith notice 3 weeks ago. I offered to renegotiate. Nobody responded, nobody called, nobody seemed to think it mattered. I know, he sighed heavily. I should have pushed harder with Garrett. I should have made sure he understood. I'm sorry. I appreciate that, Dominic. I really do. What do you actually want here? Tell me straight. I want exactly what I asked for, the consulting contract, full team reinstatement, and one more thing. What? Garrett doesn't touch my team ever again. Not now. Not ever. We report directly to you. No intermediary, no tech director oversight. Long silence. Done, Dominic said immediately. I'll need all of it in writing. Signed by legal and exec team. I'll have legal draft everything within the hour. Then, as soon as I receive the fully signed contract and confirmation of the wire transfer, I'll restore the license immediately. Lexi, I'm not turning it back on based on a phone call and a promise, Dominic. 1 hour, signed contracts. He laughed. It sounded exhausted and slightly hysterical. Fair enough. Oh, and Dominic? Yeah, I'll need a formal written apology from Garrett, acknowledging that my team's contributions were undervalued and that the decision to eliminate our roles was an error in judgment. Muffled voices again. Argument sounds. Then Garrett's voice, strained and defeated. Fine, great, I said pleasantly. I'll be waiting. I hung up, finished my coffee, and I waited. The contract arrived at 6:43 a.m., PDF attachments, fully executed. Signatures from legal, from Dominic, from the CFO. I read every single word. $1.2 million consulting agreement. 6 months. Payment terms, full amount wired within 24 hours of contract execution. Full reinstatement offers for Jordan, Asher, Dev, and Priya. Same titles. 15% salary increases across the board. $20,000 signing bonuses each as compensation for transition disruption. Reporting structure. Infrastructure team reports directly to CTO. Tech director role has no oversight, approval authority, or budget control over infrastructure, and a separate email from Garrett's company account. Subject: formal apology and acknowledgement body. Lexi, I want to formally apologize for my decision to eliminate the infrastructure team. It was an error in judgment that failed to account for the critical value your team provides to Arcline's operations. Your contributions, and those of your team, were significantly undervalued, and I take full responsibility for that oversight. I hope we can move forward productively. Garrett Dyson, Tech Director, Arcline Technologies. It was hollow, corporate, meaningless in tone, but it was in writing, and that's what mattered. I forwarded everything to my lawyer, who I'd put on standby the night before. She reviewed it all and confirmed everything was legally enforceable. Then I opened my laptop, logged into the Synthwave licensing portal, and I reactivated the license. 6:58 a.m., 2 minutes later, my phone rang. It's back. Dominic sounded like he'd aged a decade in 3 hours. Traffic is routing, we're back online, alerts are clearing. Good, thank you, you're welcome. Lexi, I'll see you Monday, Dominic. I hung up, then I called Jordan. Hey, I said when she answered groggily. You busy? Lexi. It's 7 in the morning, I'm literally still in bed. What's going on? Check your email, you're getting your job back. Silence, then scrambling sounds. Are you serious right now? Dead serious. 15% raise. $20,000 bonus. And Garrett doesn't get to touch us anymore. She laughed, loud and disbelieving. What the hell did you do? I reminded them what infrastructure is actually worth. By Monday, the whole company knew. Not officially, of course. There was no announcement. No all-hands explanation, no email from leadership. But the story spread the way stories always do in tech companies. Through Slack DMs, through lunch conversations, through coffee breaks and hallway whispers. Lexi's team got axed, Lexi owned the IP, Lexi revoked the license. The platform went down. Lexi got a 7-figure contract and her whole team back with raises. The details got embellished, the way details always do. Some versions had me holding the company hostage. Some versions had Dominic begging on his knees. Some versions had Garrett getting fired on the spot. None of that was true, but the core story was accurate enough. Garrett kept his job, barely. He was quietly moved to a different division 3 months later. Strategic advisor or some meaningless title like that. No direct reports, no budget authority, no real responsibilities. Dominic told me privately over coffee that the board had wanted to fire him outright. The optics were just too complicated. Easier to let him fade into irrelevance until his contract expired. I didn't care what happened to Garrett. I got what I actually wanted. My team was back. We were protected. We had direct reporting to someone who actually understood what we did. And we went back to doing what we do best, building systems that work so well, nobody notices them. The consulting contract ran its full 6 months. After that, I transitioned back to full-time employment. New terms. Significantly better equity package. And a clause that said, if they ever tried to eliminate my team again without my explicit agreement, I could walk with full IP rights to everything I'd ever built for them. Dominic made absolutely sure that clause was airtight. Synthwave kept running, 99.98% uptime, 2.5 billion requests a day, 15 global regions. And not a single executive ever questioned our value again. Not once. Here's what I actually learned from all of this. Not everyone who makes decisions understands what they're actually deciding. Garrett looked at a spreadsheet and saw salaries, headcount numbers, cost centers. He didn't see the system those people had built. He didn't see the thousands of hours of work that made everything else possible. He didn't see the failures we prevented every single day. He didn't see the scalability we enabled or the uptime we maintained. He saw a line item he could cut to hit some arbitrary efficiency target. And when you reduce people to line items on a spreadsheet, you make catastrophic mistakes. I don't think Garrett was evil. I don't even think he was particularly malicious. I think he was careless. Arrogant, maybe. Overconfident in his MBA frameworks and his consulting background. And in a technical organization, carelessness is just as dangerous as malice. The thing is, I didn't do any of this for revenge. That's not what this was about. I did it because I knew my worth. I knew what I'd built. I knew the value of what my team contributed every single day. And I wasn't going to let someone else's ignorance or carelessness devalue that. I gave them notice. I followed every protocol. I offered to negotiate in good faith. They ignored it. And when the consequences finally landed exactly as I'd warned they would, they had nobody to blame except themselves. I don't regret any of it. Not the license revocation. Not the contract terms. Not the apology I made Garrett write. Not a single piece of it. Because respect isn't something you beg for. It's not something you hope people will give you if you just work hard enough or prove yourself enough times. It's something you command. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the only way to get that respect is to let people see very clearly what happens when you're not there. When the thing you built stops working, when the foundation crumbles, when the invisible infrastructure they took for granted suddenly becomes very, very visible. So that's the story. I'm still at Arcline, still leading the infrastructure team, still building and maintaining Synthwave. My team is still here too. Jordan, Asher, Dev, and Priya. We're actually hiring 2 more engineers because Dominic finally got budget approval for the headcount we actually needed all along. And Synthwave is still running beautifully. Still invisible when it works. Still absolutely critical. If you've ever been undervalued at work, if you've ever had someone look at what you built and tell you it doesn't justify your salary, I want you to remember this story. Know your worth. Protect your work. Document everything. And never, ever let someone else's blindness or carelessness dictate your value, because you know what you bring to the table. And if they don't see it, sometimes you have to take the table away and let them figure it out the hard way. If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. We're closing in on 7,000 subscribers, and every single one of you is part of this community that believes patience and precision beat panic every single time. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever had a boss who fundamentally didn't understand what you actually did? Someone who looked at your work and completely missed the point? I want to hear those stories. And if you want to know what happens when someone tries to steal credit for work they didn't do and claim expertise they don't have, stick around. That story is coming next. And it's a good one. I'm Lexi. And I'll see you in the next one.